The global economic collapse is not a singular circumstance. It's an asynchronous series of events. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, many Americans are celebrating Thanksgiving, and I've got some information surrounding that. The first is the U.S. weekly jobless claims hitting a 52-year low. Economy regaining speed. Weekly jobless claims post a stunning decline to 199,000, the lowest level since 1969. This is positive information in one light. If we take the official government statistics, that's the way it looks. There's a much deeper story here, and I've gotten into it in previous videos, but I do believe it's important to see the information as it connects with what I'm about to show you. Taking a look here, ocean spray can shortage prompts a switch to fresh cranberries. So here we have Thanksgiving. A lot of people have cranberries on the table, but in this here, we've got a different Thanksgiving than in previous years. Many different products are in shortage, and many products are extremely expensive historically. Lovers of canned cranberries may have to be flexible and opt for fresh due to shortages of the cans used to transport the fruit. So even this something so basic like canned cranberries may not be available. In fact, if you are able to get these, please let me know in the comments. I have heard from people all over the world. Some have said, oh my goodness, there's so many shortages and empty shelves and prices are escalating where I live. And other people say, that's basically business as usual. But you have to look at it depending on where you are. Just like the calculation of inflation really depends on what you spend. If meat prices are rising and you don't eat the meat, well then you don't necessarily experience it the same as somebody who does. So of course, there's always going to be variances. Take a look at this. This is in Turkey. Turkey, as in the country, they're showing us some insane levels of devaluation of the currency. Wine is up 15% in a day. Chicken by 10%. The price Turks are paying for the country's currency collapse. Now you've got to think about that for a moment. This is insane, right? It is unbelievable. I mean, to think for a second that prices can rise at this level and people can somehow stay afloat. Yes, your wages can accelerate too. Yes, you can get, governments can do things to help you out, but it's not going to keep up at the speed of the currency's devaluation. And that's happening basically everywhere, but you can't recognize it until it's a hyperinflation. Then you can say, okay, this is where we're at. But by then, it's too late. That's why you have to ask yourself, you go historically all through it and say, well, if I was in that situation, I would have done this. But people can't see the forest from the trees, as they say. Now, I talked about Dollar Tree before, and some comments suggested that I didn't know what I was talking about. But here it is, Dollar Tree, showing you how they've rolled out $1.25 tree. Here it is, $1.25 price point. This is at all of their stores nationwide. Now, I'm assuming here that things will all be $1.25 or greater in the near future, but for now, it's a price point. So there may be other products that are $1. But I think it's important to see what has happened. From $1 to $1.25 is only a quarter. But at the same time, that's 25%. So the prices yesterday at $1 to today at $1.25 is a big markup. And many people have said, many occasions, this is all temporary. This is all transitory. This will not last forever. And so While we could definitely see a reduction in inflation rates, as we'll talk about more in a minute, but will Dollar Tree reduce their prices down to $1 again? If this happens, let's say for another year, okay, we are in 2022, they're selling most of their items at $1.25. Are they going to go backwards and bring their prices down to $1? Maybe if there's some catastrophic event, but generally, that doesn't happen. On the consumer side, this is what's been happening. Personal savings rate has declined to the levels we saw back before 2020. All the stimulus has faded away, most of it anyway. People are spending their money left, right, and center. At the same time, you've got interest rates at rock bottom and housing prices at the very, very top. Expenses in general, I mean, just think about what people are paying for regular items. It has gone off the charts. And so how could it be possible that we could stop or slow down inflation? Well, the Federal Reserve and the other central banks have a simple tool, and that is allowing interest rates to go naturally where they would be, just a little bit more. That's right, the Fed members are ready to raise interest rates if inflation continues to run high. That's according to the meeting minutes. So in the meeting minutes, so look, in the statement that they put out, those statements are going to get, just tweaked and molded, as they call it, forward guidance. And each and every word and the position of those words really does matter to the markets. Extended out a little bit further, the meeting minutes, you get a little bit out of, more truth out of that. And then you go take it a step further when we have sort of the informal interviews and things that happen with the Fed members, that we get a little bit better information out of them. But ultimately, you can see what they are talking about here. Essentially, they're talking about stagflation. Stagflation. That's their concern. And saying that we will have to, or could possibly, accelerate the speed of our tapering of the balance sheets depending on what happens with inflation. And oh my goodness, inflation has gone higher according to the Fed's favorite gauge at the bottom of the screen. U.S. personal consumption expenditures. That's a month over month, 1.3%. You do not see that often. Okay, it didn't slow down. It picked up. And this is the Federal Reserve's own metric. What about New Zealand? I know, my friends in New Zealand. I want to say hello to all of you. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand hikes interest rates again, but they may not continue on with that cycle. Okay, just the one time again, we're done here. Well, of course, that's not how it works. This is important, not just for those in New Zealand, in Australia, and Canada, but it's also important for the United States. Interest rates at rock bottom can be good for borrowing. However, the people that do the most borrowing during these times are the biggest banks and institutions and mega conglomerates. These groups are able to profit off of it. You borrowing don't get the same rates. I've heard this term all the time of, borrowing against your assets. It's a very different story for Jeff Bezos, who could borrow at, I think it was 0.69% on his Amazon stock. But you try to do that and you come back and tell me the rate that you got. Okay? This is a very different scenario. Anyway, what's happening here is a rise in prices dramatically. Your turkey, your cranberries, they are all becoming more expensive. And then we've got a situation where the Federal Reserve, central banks, they could be doing something to stop it. We'll see if that happens. This is just a continuation of what's happening in China. You thought all of that was over with the lockdowns on all different aspects, actually, lockdowns, but in one respect, but in another as well, where they have been really cracking down on their services and so on. China freezes new Tencent apps and updates for data privacy review. They're not done. The crackdown is coming hard. Now, I've got some positive information. I want to leave you with this one and the next one. Right now in Texas, the announcement of a new $17 billion Samsung manufacturing facility in Taylor, in Texas right now. The suggestion is that they will be investing $17 billion. Hopefully, this is going to bring jobs on the construction, jobs in the maintenance, and of course, ongoing jobs producing stuff. Producing stuff is good, and it's happening in Texas. I also read articles about Florida getting more jobs, Florida getting more tourism. So there is some positivity depending on where you go, but there's always going to be both sides of the equation, okay? But I like this. On the other hand, there was supposedly, the Foxconn was going to, open up their factory and all of this. Nothing really happened. And they had to, I believe they gave the money back. They were granted some cash and they gave it back. I covered it previously, but anyway, let's hope this goes through, okay? And then we have this. I thought it was interesting. This is an individual. He's got his business repairing typewriters. He's repairing the typewriters and they're about to close down. And then suddenly, typewriters coming back in style. People are trying to get away from it. The whole computers, trying to get away from all the technology. They want sort of an old school vintage vibe. The guy said his business is booming at a rate he hasn't seen in 41 years. The only reason I mention this is that all the insanity we have seen with all the new technologies, some people are starting to say, you know what? I don't want some of this stuff. Maybe I want it sometimes, but I don't want a chip in my brain. I don't want a chip in my wrist. I don't want all these different things that, they claim have all these advantages. I want a simple life. So we've got people preparing all over the world. They are growing their own food. They have their own livestock. They have their own water harvesting. They are taking matters into their own hands. And while it might be difficult and inconvenient and all this other stuff, they realize the benefits of it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to leave you with today. If you support my work and you support this message, please hit that like button. It's right down below. And I will see you on the next one.